Now we're going to widen the lens a bit to a wider geopolitical focus. We have a panel discussion, the first speaker by connection, Chris Pappas, the co-chair of the Congressional Hellenic Caucus, congressman in the US House of Representatives, going to join us by connection. But we also have Ted Deutsch, Chief Executive Officer of the American Jewish Committee, who's here in person. And we have James Fogo, former commander, Joint Force Command Naples, NATO, and Dean of the Center for Maritime Strategy. Gentlemen, please welcome.
Thank you, Jared.
Admiral.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Please take a seat. Chris Pappas, welcome to you as well. Thank you very much for joining. We're going to hear, I think, about 5 minutes from each speaker, and then we're going to open up and have a short discussion. So over to you, Mr. Pappas.
Well, thank you very much for convening this event here today, and I'm sorry that I couldn't join you in person. I'm on official business back in my district in New Hampshire. But once again, it's an honor to be with you virtually. I just want to underscore a few things that have mostly been said this morning, but that are critically important as we consider our work in Congress and how we can continue to bolster the relationship between the United States and our crucial allies, including Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. We know that these nations play a critical role in maintaining peace and prosperity in the Eastern Mediterranean, and certainly as well promoting political, religious, and economic freedom. Obviously, we're having this conversation more than a year after Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine, which is ongoing. And so I think our shared interest in safeguarding the security of the region has never been more important. Earlier this year, I worked with my co-chair of the Hellenic Caucus, Gus Bilirakis from Florida, to relaunch that caucus. It is an important opportunity, I think, to not just share the values of Hellenism, which is really important within the Congress, but certainly to strengthen the ties between the United States, Greece, and Cyprus. We all work in a crucially bipartisan fashion to advance policies that strengthen our relationships, but do it in a way that's in line with America's interests in the region. We know that because the Eastern Mediterranean is at the crossroads of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, that Greece, Cyprus, and Israel all play a critical role. And they have proven themselves to be among our strongest allies, and certainly in that region, but as we look at our alliances around the world. Our ties have only strengthened in recent years, really founded on the recognition that Greece, Cyprus, and Israel are reliable democratic allies. They're pillars of stability. And this is evident through the success of the 3+1 cooperation framework. So our caucus has worked really closely together to help secure additional funding that is going to invest in these relationships. I'll mention, full funding of the 3+1 partnership, as well as funding for the International Military Education and Training Assistance Program, which ensures that our military can continue to work closely together with these allies. You've heard today the way that the 3+1 framework is really an indispensable mechanism to promote cooperation in a variety of areas, including things like maritime security, defense cooperation, certainly energy initiatives, and ways that we can counter malign influences in the region. So that's why it's important that we continue to work in a bipartisan fashion moving forward in Congress, and the commitment continues to be there in our caucus. We know, for instance, that Greece remains a critical partner in regional energy initiatives and global security, certainly hosting military facilities that are used by both the United States and NATO for military operations. As has been discussed this morning, we face a dynamic environment when it comes to energy resources. Now Greece imports 50% of its natural gas from the United States, and certainly ports, including the port of Alexandroupoli, have become critical energy hubs that help reduce European dependence on Russian oil. This has deepened energy cooperation in the region. It's also helping to ensure that our nations are working closely together to stabilize resources, to develop more diverse supplies, and also to make sure that we're unlocking new technologies that can help us fight climate change and invest in renewable energy sources. So this is helping to reduce the impact of rising energy prices and has helped diversify Europe's energy supply, which is significantly reducing Russia's grip on world energy markets and making sure that it is not leveraging that power over the Western alliance. Through this cooperation, we are also protecting regional and global security initiatives. And the United States and Cyprus have also forged some critical collaboration too on a broad spectrum of issues. And the Biden administration has now fully lifted that arms embargo on Cyprus, something that the Hellenic Caucus has strongly advocated for. And Cyprus has the opportunity to transition away from Russian-made systems, which will enhance interoperability between our armed forces and enable Cyprus to participate in various research initiatives. Israel obviously is an essential partner in the region. As the only democracy in the Middle East, Israel benefits both U.S. foreign policy and peace and stability in the Eastern Mediterranean. And we know the ways that Israel's security continues to be threatened. And so the support from the United States must be ironclad as we think about a variety of ways that we can work together strategically. I'll mention the historic Abraham Accords, which were really crucial in normalizing relations between Israel and many Muslim nations in the Middle East and North Africa. And we have the opportunity to continue to highlight those Abraham Accords and see if we can allow other nations to come under them. Our collective ties should be celebrated. And I think it's important to recognize the way that each of these nations benefits the United States' strategic interests in the Eastern Mediterranean. And we should also think about the ways that these nations have stepped up to the plate when it comes to supporting our democratic ally, Ukraine. Greece was one of the first nations to condemn Russia for the invasion of Ukraine and the first to send military aid to Ukraine. And despite the impact that the sanctions have been having on Greece's economy, on energy prices in Europe, and certainly on supply chains and the shipping industry, they've remained a strong supporter of sanctioning the Russian regime. I mentioned the port of Alexandroupoli, which is obviously an integral part of NATO's eastern flank. It enables the United States to rapidly deploy troops to the region and certainly to make sure that Ukraine gets the resources to be able to defend its sovereignty. Cyprus has also moved to hold Russia accountable and has banned Russian ships from its port, did that even before the EU did. They've supported sanctions, they've welcomed tens of thousands of refugees, and they've also stepped up to the plate by donating millions of dollars in humanitarian aid, which was, from what I understand, the largest aid package ever contributed by Cyprus. Israel has also done its part to support the Ukrainian people, including sharing valuable intelligence, providing armored ambulances, donating over $22 million in humanitarian aid. So it's really important that we highlight the work that has gone on here and the ties that bind our nations together. And it goes beyond just the strategic importance of these nations in the Eastern Mediterranean. It's about our shared values. It's about our democratic values and our push to make sure that free people all over the world can stand up to authoritarian regimes like Russia when the moment calls for it. And I think it underscores the importance of standing strong in so many different respects with those who share our values and really are pushing for freedom and self-determination. So that is some of the work that our Hellenic Caucus is focused on in Congress. We are looking at some important milestones in terms of our work in Washington, including a defense bill that will be voted on in the coming week, appropriation season, and a host of other important priorities that will potentially pick up pieces of this conversation. But I'm just grateful for the opportunity to join you here today and look forward to this conversation this morning. Thanks so much.